こんにちは。今日のスピーキング練習を始めます。Managerial decision making. The guidelines governing management decisions cannot be reduced to a simple formula. Traditionally, economists have assumed that the goal of a business enterprise was to maximize its profits. There are, however, problems of interpretation with this simple assertion. First, the notion of profit is itself unclear in operational terms. Today's profits can be increased at the expense of profits years away by cutting maintenance, deferring investment, and exploiting staff. Second, there are questions about whether expenditure on offices, cars, staff expenses, and other trappings of status reduces shareholders' wealth or whether these are part of necessary performance incentives for executives. Some proponents of such expenditures believe that they serve to enhance contacts, breed confidence, improve the flow of information, and stimulate business. Third, if management asserts primacy of profits, this may in itself provide negative signal to employees about the systems of corporate values. Where long-term success requires goodwill, commitment, and cooperation, focus on short-term profit may alienate or drive away those very employees upon whom long-term success depends. Generally speaking, most companies turn over only about half of their earnings to stockholders as dividends. They plow the rest of their profits back into the operation. A major motivation of executives is to expand their operations faster than those of their competitors. The important point, however, is that without a profit over the long term, no firm can survive. For growing firms in competitive markets, a major indicator of executive competence is the ability to augment company earnings. Government and the private enterprise. The US government plays only a small direct part in economic activity, being largely restricted to such agencies as the US Postal Service, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and the Tennessee Valley Authority. Enterprises that are often in public hands in other countries, such as airlines and telephone systems, are run privately in the United States. A principal effort of the government traditionally has been the fostering of competition through the enforcement of antitrust laws. These are designed to combat collusion among companies with respect to prices, output levels, or market shares, and where feasible to prevent mergers that significantly reduce competition. The vigor with which antitrust laws and regulations are to be enforced is a matter of perennial political debate. The major area of government regulation of economic activity is through fiscal and monetary policy. The government also exerts considerable leverage on certain sectors of the economy as a purchaser of goods. Notably, in the aircraft and aerospace industries, proposals for governmental controls and aerospace industries proposals for government controls of prices and incomes have been a frequent source of much controversy. Farming is a field in which the government strongly influences private economic activity. It endeavors to support farm incomes through payment to farmers, controls on output, price support, and the provision of storage and marketing facilities. One disadvantage of the system is that payments are related to farm output so that the benefit often goes to the larger commercial firms rather than to the so-called family firms that were originally the main object of governmental concern. Educational theory and practice. Dewey's work in philosophy and psychology was largely centered in his major interest, educational reform. In formulating educational criteria and aims, he drew heavily on the insights into learning offered by contemporary psychology as applied to children. He views thought and learning as a process of inquiry starting from doubt or uncertainty and spurred by the desire to resolve practical friction or relieve strain and tension. Education must therefore begin with experience, which has as its aim growth and achievement of maturity. Dewey's writings on education, notably his The School and Society 1899 and The Child and Curriculum 1902, presented and defended what remained chief underlying tenets of the philosophy of education he originated. These tenets were that the educational process must begin with and build upon the interests of the child, that it must provide opportunity for the interplay of thinking and doing in the child's classroom experience, that the teacher should be a guide and co-worker with the pupils rather than taskmaster, assigning a fixed set of lessons and recitations, and that the school goal is the growth of the child in all aspects of its being. Among the results of these administrative efforts was the establishment of an independent Department of Pedagogy and of the University of Chicago's laboratory schools, in which the education theory and practices suggested by psychology and philosophy could be tested. The laboratory schools, which began operation in 1896, attracted wide attention and enhanced the reputation of the University of Chicago as the foremost center of progressive educational thought. The ethnics. Although current usage confines the term ethnic to the descendants of the U.S. immigrants, its proper, more comprehensive meaning applies to all groups unified by their cultural heritage and by their experience in the New World. In the 19th century, Yankees formed one such group, marked by common religion and by habits shaped by the original Puritan settler from New England. The Yankees spread westward through New York, northern Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois, and onto Iowa and Kansas. Tightly knit communities form religious values and the belief in the value of education, and the prominent position in business, in literature and law, and in cultural and philanthropic institutions. They long identified with the Republican Party. Southern whites and their descendants, by contrast, generation after generation, remained preponderantly rural as migration took them westward across Tennessee and Kentucky to Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Texas. These people remained primarily rural until the industrialization of the South in the 20th century, and they preserved affiliations with the Democratic Party. Until the 1960s, the colonial population also contained other elements that long sustained their identities as groups. The Pennsylvania German, held together by religion and language, still pursued their own way of life. After 3 centuries, the great 19th century German migrations, however, contained a variety of elements that dispersed in the cities, as well as in the agricultural areas of the West. To the extent that ethnic ties have survived, they are largely sentimental. Tools of filmmaking. All motion pictures are based on an illusion of motion, made possible by a characteristic of visual perception called persistence of vision. The brain retains an impression for 1/16th to 1/10th of a second after the eye has stopped looking at the illuminated image. When a series of pictures of an object is presented in steady, rapid succession, with the position of the object slightly altered in each picture to represent successive stages of movement, the brain blends the different pictures into one another, creating the illusion of motion. A simple way to demonstrate the illusion of motion is to draw a line in the lower right-hand corner of each page of a pad of paper, altering the angle of each line very slightly in a single direction. If the pages are then left at the latter first page, the eye will perceive the illusion of moving line. In motion pictures, persistence of vision is used to create the illusion of motion from still photographs by means of shadows that opens and closes at a high speed. The motion picture camera photographs a series of still images because the time lapse between images is normally 1/24th of a second. In most cameras, the differences between images are small. The illusion of motion is provided by the projector, in which the film is moved past light source at the same speed at which the images were photographed. Persistence of vision causes separate images to be projected as a continually moving scene. If there were no separations between images, the picture would appear as a blur. 終わり。